In today's episode, we're going to be reacting to some of the strangest videos that I could find on the internet. Let's get into it.
There's this thing, it's called the friendship case. Have you ever heard of this?
No.
The story is so weird and bizarre, really hard to believe. In 1956, there was these Italian men apparently found this map of this castle that was close to them. They got there, and these two, they said they looked like humans, but they weren't. One of them was 10 feet tall, and the other one was 3 feet tall.
Stooges.
They were aliens. They went by W56. But apparently these alien people, they have these underground bases, they said. They've been here for centuries. They even have bases in the ocean. Their whole purpose of being on Earth is to save humanity from themselves, especially regarding nuclear bombs.
Yeah, fair.
But apparently there's 100 witnesses to these people, and there's photo evidence and video evidence of them showing them their flying saucers. But they said the only way that their technology works is if there is friendship and love.
What?
So like, if we're not experiencing love within humanity or friendship or compassion, they said our technology doesn't work.
That's really cute.
It's like Santa's sleigh.
But they said that there's another group of aliens that have been since they've been here, the CTR, basically their enemies. And it says they are described as materialistic and strictly scientific, more cold and calculated. Witnesses have depicted the CTR as human-like, often bald, and seen driving dark Mercedes limousines in Italy, reminiscent of the Men in Black phenomena reported elsewhere.
I've actually never heard of this friendship case before. Let me know in the comments, have any of you heard this before? Because this was a new one to me.
What if our galaxy is a cell? Yes, a cell with a nucleus, mitochondria, endoplasmic reticulum, Golgi apparatus, lysosomes, peroxisomes, chloroplasts, nucleic acids, proteins, carbohydrates, lipids, ATP, cellulose, and chromosomes. What if the universe is Jesus' body? Yes, we are miniature beings living on an electron. Earth is an electron. We are very tiny. Our solar system is an element. An element is part of the galaxy, which is a cell. Our element is oxygen. The sun is an atom, and the planets are electrons. One atom with 8 electrons is the element oxygen, God's breath. The Father spoke Jesus' body into existence. In the cell or galaxy, there are many other elements which make up the cells. When we look into the universe and see billions of galaxies, we are piercing through the membrane or water that holds all of them together, a body. Heaven is where Jesus walks. We go where he goes because we are in his body. We are just one element called oxygen in one cell out of an unlimited number of cells. Jesus in heaven are living on an element that is part of the Father. The bigger, the more elements, and the more elements, the more colors, and the more things we can do. So the Trinity is one big dude with Jesus inside the dude with heaven and his cell, and energy or electricity is the Holy Ghost, and it cannot be constrained by size because it's everywhere and in everything. The Holy Spirit can exist on all planes. Now that we have that established, the Father created us on one element inside a cell. Since nothing exists outside of him, he had to create inwardly. This is an astonishing feat of engineering beyond words. The Bible says we are the beginning of this creation. The Father plans on creating more life on other electrons or planets. But he has to deal with a rebellious spirit first, a bad energy like a virus that is killing the cell. In the end, God will destroy the cell with fire. Since it's so small, it will not affect Jesus or us as well, because we'll become energy and be moved on to a new cell. All of the other galaxies are filled with electrons, vegetation, and life, just not with the breath of life that God gave us. So what is your purpose? To learn from your mistakes get through the war, and be placed on other electrons or planets as mayors and governors. With our experience on Earth, we will have knowledge and wisdom to settle the differences with other life forms that the Father creates. Hope this helps.
Let me know what you guys think about this. Pretty interesting stuff.
This next video was posted by a Reddit user who writes that the following video was taken back in 2020. He didn't take the video himself, but rather it was sent to him by his sister who was at a hospital for reasons unknown. While she was there, she was waiting out in the hallway where no one else seemed to be present. It was just her, alone in this big empty hallway, or at least that's what she thought. Because, as her family believes, she wasn't completely alone. In a video she posted to her family's group chat, something can be seen moving and peeking at the end of the hallway. Have a look. After checking to see what it was that was moving, she finds nothing. Now it's hard to say as to what exactly is being seen here, but many viewers on Reddit believe that it's something paranormal. Some can even make out a face or even a body.
Buy silver and gold while you still can, people. I'm gonna be as realistic as possible about these tariffs, okay? And just hear me out, regardless of any political stance that you have. Because tariffs create economic uncertainty, investors flee to gold as a safe haven. An inflation hedge of sort, okay? And you have to understand, tariffs work, but they only work in the long term. So before it gets to the point where us as Americans can actually benefit from them, it will become greatly costly. I mean, people, we're talking about gas prices being affected. You have to understand, okay, there is a quality of oil. When it comes to the US, we consume more oil than we actually produce. Reasons of why we import heavier crude oil from countries like Canada. And Canada is literally the biggest foreign supply of crude oil to the US. And let's also keep in mind that drill baby drill can't actually happen yet unless Trump is able to reverse the ban that the Biden administration actually implemented to begin with. And let me just put it this way, okay? The last time that Trump actually tried to do that, it didn't happen. Why do you think they're talking about utilizing national parks? And that's just oil. We're also talking about car production. The supply chain relies on parts being able to cross the border. And $81 billion in auto parts come from Mexico alone, while $19 billion comes from Canada. We're talking about computers, cell phones, other electronics, clothes, shoes, tequila, whiskey. I know you love your whiskey. I get what Trump's trying to do, okay? I really do. Make America great again, sure. But guess what? Realistically, Trump could have actually implemented this process back in 2016 when he was already president before. And let's be honest, doing it right now would benefit nobody except the rich. You have to understand, when shit like this goes down, the stocks go. And guess who's gonna invest in those stocks, people? But guess what? In the midst of this, crypto prices are actually gonna dip too. And that's good for you. You might not want to invest. I get it. You think the US dollar is invincible. Until you realize that Trump actually just announced that crypto reserve. So now is the time for the American people to make actual money, to become self-sustainable. Stop working a 9-to-5, people. Prove to them that you don't need to labor yourself anymore.
Hey, if you haven't done so already and you're enjoying the show, give it a like. And if you're new to the channel, subscribe. For everyone that's currently watching and or subscribed, thank you guys so much for supporting the channel.
I have been looking for this photo for a long time and I finally found it. Actual proof that there are organic humanoids that have been in use since 1938, and it sort of connects the dots to a lot of theories that I've had that I've talked about on here, but the videos keep getting taken down, so there's some stuff that I have to leave out. But this kind of connects to this other video that I made about a year ago. Trigger warning, because this is kind of spooky, but I've got one question for whoever took this video. What is the point of having fake humanoids on display in your secret underground tunnel unless you're going to use them to impersonate people? Like, what other reason could there be to have a whole freezer full of these guys just hanging here and ready to be in use? Like, what other possible reason would there to be than to impersonate like a famous person, like a celebrity, or even a politician? Like, what is even the point of making these? Somebody tell me.
It would not surprise me whatsoever if there is actually clones out there in the world. I think cloning has been around for a while. I'm not saying that this video right here is real, but the theories around it is very interesting. Let me know what you guys think in the comments.
On July 28th of 2024, a certain video was shared among many residents of a town where something quite peculiar had taken place. It happened right outside someone's house at around 7 p.m. Those who live here had thankfully caught the event on camera via surveillance footage, but the video itself is just part of the reason why neighbors are concerned. Whatever happened here had sent someone to the hospital. It was immediately after knowing this that residents of this neighborhood became terrified. The following is what was captured. Watch.
What in the world was that?
What looks like a flying object appears to strike the man from inside the house. Now it's worth noting that he's okay, but he did need a couple of stitches afterwards.
Dang.
But strangely, he doesn't recall what happened as the impact was intense.
That did look really aggressive.
Have you ever experienced a past life memory? Many people have these profound moments through meditation and hypnosis or other altered states of consciousness where they can break through and remember living an entirely different life in the past. Maybe it was in ancient Egypt or the Civil War. I myself have had these experiences before, but this is why I think that interpretation is wrong. The problem comes from people who have had experiences outside of this reality, transcendent things like ego dissolution or near death. And one of the most common takeaways from people who've gone through something like that is that time is an illusion. When people come back from a journey like that, they are always trying to boil it down into understandable terms so that they can share it with everyone because it changed their life. But one of the biggest distortions of that process is the fact that we are just dumb humans and we experience things in a linear time. And so our human interpretation of that experience is through that lens. These experiences can be very real and life-changing, but I think that our interpretation of them being a past life is just a limited human attempt at explaining a certain aspect of our reality. And if we get too entrenched in this very rigid belief system, then we are limiting ourselves from a far more complex reality. But if you do have a different idea of how this phenomenon can fit in with the illusion of time, please share it.
If I have lived through a past life, I do not remember it, unfortunately. I really find past life or reincarnation stories extremely interesting, so if any of you have them, please leave them down in the comments.
All right, y'all, we have a weird creature sighting coming out of Mexico. This was captured around February 17th, 2025 by a farmer by the name of Carlos. He was on his way home when literally he and other drivers on the road stopped because of this thing, whatever it is. He only caught the tail end of it as he was trying to pull his phone out of his pocket and record. But what he caught has thousands of people questioning what the heck this is. Take a look at this and tell me what you think. And if anybody sees this video and you were there, if you have your own footage, post it, because this thing is weird.
I'm not sure what it could be. Let's play it again. To me, it looks like maybe it's a big cat or a dog, and they're carrying something in their mouth going up this little cliff. That's kind of what it looks like to me.
A lab has created a woolly mouse in an effort to bring back woolly mammoths. A biotech company out of Texas wants to pull a Jurassic Park and bring back woolly mammoths, which have been extinct for about 4,000 years. Yesterday, Colossal Biosciences, seen here posing for their Netflix special, presented this mouse with shaggy mammoth-like fur and cold-adapted traits like how it stores fat. The lab has parts of ancient mammoth DNA, and they were able to isolate similar genes that mice also have. Keratin, for example, is a protein found in hair that both of them have in some form. So they altered a mouse gene version with the mammoth gene variant, specifically the waviness. The company says one of the reasons for creating a woolly mouse is to help save endangered species. That by tweaking genomes, maybe we can make animals more resilient to our actions. However, there are issues. For starters, the paper has not yet been peer-reviewed. Not to mention that DNA is extremely finicky and doesn't last long. Even if they did somehow bring mammoths back, the animals that exist in those areas now won't know what to do with this species that's been dead for thousands of years. But you can't take away the big success here, which isn't so much that it's a woolly mouse, but more that it survived. But everyone agrees that they're pretty cute.
They're just trying to make it one step closer to the movie Jurassic Park. I mean, I guess it's a cute mouse, but is it really necessary?
All right, you see this place right here? So we are in Troy, New York, okay? Troy, New York. Do you see this? The locals refer to this place as the Fortress. Okay, I'm gonna show you some pictures. The Fortress. I just did some quick research about it here. We're close to the Hudson here in Troy, New York. And apparently this was built in 1902, but nobody has any record of the architect or any of that. Come on, dude. Seriously? Come on. In Troy, New York.
It's a pretty interesting building. It definitely has some castle-like features.
Alright, can you see that? Can you see that up there? This place is gigantic. Gigantic, bro. That tower there is huge. This is wild, man. Troy, New York, along the Hudson River. Lots of castles along the Hudson River. Video of recently in Schuylerville, New York, Victory Mill. Yes, Victory Mill, and this is also a mill.
I mean, I did a little bit of research on this building because I've never actually heard of it before, and it's a pretty cool story behind it. Apparently, the architects behind it were Edward J. Murphy and J.J. Ryan. So I don't know if there's that much of a mystery behind it all, but a lot of people in the comments of this video are saying that this could potentially be Tartarian structure. Let me know what you guys think in the comments.
They just found what under the ocean, and people are freaking out. With only around 5% of the Earth's oceans discovered, we do not know what is actually out there below the water. A lot of you have probably seen this photo right here, and when you see this sail, you know it doesn't mean anything good. It represents this place, which is Point Nemo, the most isolated place on the entire planet. But back in 1997, something very strange happened in this place. For some reason, I don't know why, but a lot of people didn't know about this and kept asking me in the comments, so here we go. Researchers were testing underwater microphones at this time in the area. They discovered this. We know how whales sound, we know what dolphins and other animals that would probably be living here would sound like, and it's definitely not this. This led to many theories over the years. What actually was this sound that was captured, known as the bloop? People believing there's something living under the surface that we have never encountered yet, or it was just a giant whale. However, the most plausible explanation, which many researchers believe, is that it was two icebergs essentially colliding and crashing down. With it being relatively close to Antarctica, there would be icebergs in this area, so two giant bergs colliding together, crashing down to the seabed could create a sound like this, but who knows.
The following footage was supposedly captured in the waters near Singapore, and the witness records an unidentified creature keeping up with their speedboat. Now, people began to say that maybe it was a leopard seal, but if it's a leopard seal, it really has a long serpentine body. But the question we have to ask,
an AI video.
Is this real or is this AI? And if it's real, what
AI.
kind of creature is this? Take a look at this.
Let's see.
Tell me what you think.
Oh yeah, that's definitely AI.
Have y'all seen what's going on in Texas and New Mexico? Because these people are literally living in a giant sandstorm. I'm about to show you some bizarre pictures. Sand true. Use sandstorm. No, but really, this is the worst sandstorm that they have had. I believe it was since 1930s. And there's this crazy other storm up here, which is, by the way, heading our way. We'll talk about that in a minute. And I don't know if that's what caused it or not, but it's tearing the roof off of buildings. Like, this looks like a video game or a movie. And this is what it looks like from high altitude. Did I mention it's really bad in Roswell? Maybe the aliens called this one. And then we have that crazy storm that's on the way to the East Coast. They'll be here by tomorrow, right? And we have whole half states in, like, major warnings right now.
We need even more.
All right, Sugar. I'm laying it on thick just for you. What?
You heard that, right? They're laying it on thick. We really got warnings all the way down. And of course, it'll end like this. Again, it could possibly pull your roof off. I mean, we'll see. I don't know.
I just went through that storm today, actually, before the process of recording this video. And in my area, the storm was actually not even that bad. It was a lot of rain, but it was for like maybe an hour and a half, 2 hours at best. But that's here in South Carolina. That's not all over the other places that suffered the storms. And for the people in Texas, that's crazy. I hope you guys are holding up okay with all that sand. That's just wild.
This is what would happen if you traveled 1 billion years into the past. Shorter days, no visible life, noxious gases in the atmosphere, bombarded by deadly ultraviolet rays from the sun with black sludgy oceans and barren land. The Earth just entered the Neo-Proterozoic era, and this is how long you'd be able to survive here. Everyone knows the survival rule of 3, stating as a general ballpark that we can survive about 3 weeks without food, 3 days without water, 3 hours without shelter in extreme environments, and 3 minutes without air. There's obviously exceptions, but it's a generalization. Let's run through that survival list and see how long you'd last on old Earth. Before we can do anything, we still have to be able to see. So will the sun still be there to give us light? Yes, it would, but a typical day would be around 18 hours instead of the usual 24, so we'd have to adjust to that. That is, if we can even survive until then, so let's start with food. Plants and animals, as we know today, basically don't exist yet at all. The Cambrian explosion, a period of rapid evolution that resulted in a lot of new forms of more complex life on Earth, wasn't set to happen for at least another 500 million years, so there wouldn't really be much to eat. Life existed pretty much only in the ocean, as simple, single, or even multi-celled organisms, and possibly some basic plants like algae. Yup, floating bacteria in the ocean is pretty much all we got for dinner. What about drinking water? How were the oceans like? Well, we actually kind of know exactly what they were like. Scientists found 2.7 billion year old water under Ontario, Canada, that remained untouched by our atmosphere for at least 1 billion years. They took it up to study, and one brave soul actually tasted it herself, and it was nasty. Saltier than today's oceans, thicker than regular water, and it also turned orange when exposed to oxygen. This is what we call primordial soup, thick water filled with the early forms of microbial life. Great for kickstarting the theoretical process of evolution, not so much for drinking. What about shelter on old Earth? Could we at least protect ourselves from the elements? Well, 1 billion years ago, Earth would have been pretty flat. Big mountain ranges haven't had the chance to form yet on our shifting plates, so finding caves to shelter in would prove difficult. All land on the planet was a collection of land masses crammed closely together, forming the supercontinent of Rodinia? Yeah, not even Pangea. That wasn't set to form for another 700 million years. We've actually had a bunch of supercontinents on Earth, like Columbia, Rodinia, Pannotia, Gondwana, and then finally Pangea. In this case, it was Rodinia, surrounded by a superocean named Morovia. In these days, massive super earthquakes and super volcanoes were the norm, from how close together the tectonic plates were all grinding up against each other, so you'd be dealing with that as well. Microscopic food, salty thick water to drink, and barely any shelter. Things aren't looking so good. How about air? Could we at least breathe out here? The air was technically breathable, but only for a few minutes due to the low concentration of oxygen before you'd pass out. Oxygen levels were at about 2%, while today we're at 21%, so breathing would be difficult. And there would almost definitely be some weird airborne microbes in the air that our bodies aren't used to and would us if we inhaled them. Not to mention the ozone layer wasn't set to form for another 400 million years, so the sun's radiation would very quickly fry you too. If the heat didn't get you first, as the average global temperature could have been anywhere around 50 degrees Celsius, but they're really just guessing here. The only thing that would be the same as it is right now is gravity, our friendly universal constant. But this is really all just a scientific guess at best. In fact, we're missing about 1 billion years of Earth's history, during which time we don't really know what happened. When When dealing with these timescales of hundreds of millions, billions of years, we look at the geological record for study, core samples, and rock layers. The deeper we go, the further back in time we are, and newer, more recent layers get stacked on top. We can analyze these layers for their chemical composition and find out what the Earth was like during a specific era. But all over the entire world, there's an abrupt missing section of layers, and we have no idea why. Known as the Great Unconformity, best exposed in the Grand Canyon, where you can find Cambrian-era rocks about 500 million years old, stacked directly on top of Precambrian rocks about 1.7 billion years old. That's 1.2 billion years missing, right in the middle of which we'd find Earth 1 billion years ago. Yeah, I know it's a lot of math, but basically we have no clue what it was like.
I find it incredibly fascinating that there is science out there that can actually theorize on how the past was. I think that that is really cool. But I also kind of think that it might be very inaccurate. There's truly no way for us to know. I mean, I'm not a scientist, so I can't say that. It's just super mind-boggling to me that they can supposedly trace back that much history. Alright guys, I'm gonna go ahead and end today's video. As always, I want to thank each and every one of you for stopping by and watching these videos with me today. And with that being said, have a good day.